This is John Brooks again. We're at Leviticus chapter 13, verse 31. And if the priest look on the plague of the skull, and behold it be not in sight deeper than the skin, and that there is no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut up him who has the plague of the skull 7 days. And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, if the skull spread not, and there be in it no yellow hair, and the skull be not in sight deeper than the skin, he shall be shaven, but the skull shall be not shaved. I should actually read that, but the skull shall he not shave. And the priest shall shut up him who has the skull 7 days more. And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the skull, and behold, if the skull be not spread in the skin, nor be in sight deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the skull spread much in the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the skull be spread in the skin, the priest shall not seek for yellow hair. He is unclean. Verse 37, but if the skull be in his sight as a stay, and that there is black hair grown up therein, the skull is healed, he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Notes: a skull is, I guess I should have alluded to this earlier, but a skull is like a scab-like sore, which it's basically on the top of the surface of the skin. Verse 38. If a man also or a woman have in the skin of their flesh bright spots, even white bright spots, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spots in the skin of the flesh be darkish white, it is a freckled spot that grows in the skin, he is clean. Verse 40. And the man whose hair is fallen off his head, he is bald, yet he is clean. Verse 41. Didn't quite expect for that to be put in there, but I guess that's important for some reason. Verse 41. And he who has his hair fallen off from the part of his head toward his face, he is forehead bald, yet he is clean. Now, notes: the minute directions given in this chapter, and the care and patience enjoined by the priests, this shows us how God distinguishes between sin and infirmity. I got a little case of the giggles from the bald head statement. Hopefully I'll never go bald. Verse 42. I'll be clean still. I'll take a bath. Verse 42. And if there be in the bald head or bald forehead a white reddish sore, it is a leprosy sprung up in his bald head or his bald forehead. Then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the rising of the sore be white reddish in his bald head or in his bald forehead, as the leprosy appears in the skin of his flesh, he is a leprous man, he is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him utterly unclean. His plague is in his head. Notes: as the priest actually pronounced the leprosy, likewise the true preacher of the gospel, as previously stated, is to correctly identify sin, which of course the leprosy is actually a type. Verse 45. And the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent, and his head bare. Notes: this carries a spiritual meaning in that the man's personal righteousness is actually insufficient for acceptance by God. The leper's torn garment says, I am undone, useless, and I am separate from God. And as for his head being bare, this signifies that the sinner had and has no protection against the anger and wrath of God. In other words, he is naked to the judgment of God. Scripture: and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip, and shall cry, unclean, unclean. Notes: this is a little bit different, but when a person professes salvation by any means other than Christ and the cross, whether they realize it or not, they are saying, unclean, unclean. Verse 46. All the days wherein the plague shall be in him, he shall be defiled. He is unclean, he shall dwell alone. Without the camp shall his habitation be. Notes, sin defiles and in every capacity. And despite the noise and the crowds, there is a terrible loneliness about sin. Sin separates people from God, and all the people in the world will not matter without Him. As a matter of fact, we'll get into it much later on. It is recorded where the devil is actually in hell, and the people are they're angry at him for duping him, and the devil just laughs at him. That's not very fun. They're separated from God forever. Verse 47. The garment also that the plague of leprosy is in, whether it be a woolen garment or a linen garment, whether it be in the wrap or woof, or linen or of woolen, whether in a skin or in anything made of skin, and that the plague be greenish or reddish in the garment or in the skin, either in the wrap or in the woof or in anything of skin, it is a plague of leprosy, and shall be shewed unto the priest. Verse 50. Boy, this is a big chapter. And the priest shall look upon the plague, and shut up it that has the plague 7 days. And he shall look on the plague on the 7th day. If the plague be spread in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof or in a skin, or in any work that is made of skin, the plague is a fretting leprosy, it is unclean. He shall therefore burn that garment, whether wrap or woof, in woolen or in linen, or anything of skin wherein the plague is, for it is a fretting leprosy. It shall be burnt in the fire. And if the priest shall look, and behold, the plague be not spread in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or in anything of skin, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing whereon the plague is, and he shall shut it up 7 days more. And the priest shall look on the plague after that it is washed, and behold, if the plague have not changed his color, and the plague be not spread, it is unclean. You shall burn it in the fire. It is a fret inward, whether it be bare within or without. And if the priest look, and behold, the plague be somewhat dark after the washing of it, then he shall rend it out of the garment, or out of the skin, or out of the warp, or out of the woof. And if it appear still in the garment, either in the warp, or in the woof, or in anything of skin, it is a spreading plague. You shall burn that wherein the plague is with fire. And the garment, either wrap or woof, or whatsoever thing of skin it be, which you shall wash, if the plague be departed from them, then it shall be washed the 2nd time, and shall be clean. This is the law of the plague of leprosy, in a garment of wool or linen, either in the warp or woof, or anything of skins, to pronounce it clean or to pronounce it unclean. Notes. Quite a while since we had any. Leprosy in a garment is a type of sin in a man's circumstances or habits. The priest was commanded to show the same patience and care in judging a garment just as much as judging a man. Sometimes a believer must abandon part of his business because of evil attaching to it, and sometimes he must abandon it altogether. This is a principle which affects the whole Christian life, or the believer's life, I prefer to say. The carnal mind finds this chapter tiresome, uninteresting, and unpleasant. Very unpleasant. However, to the spiritual mind it is humbling and comforting. Love, untiring, and infinite wisdom are the foundation of these statutes. The reader finds himself as a moral leper in the tender, patient, wise, and loving hands of the heavenly priest, and accordingly he studies every word with humiliation and adoration. That's a quote from Williams. And we'll have to just go ahead and pick right up in chapter 14. We're going to talk some more about some cleaning laws. God's going to clean some house, I guess.